This video is brought to you by America First Insight. Help support the growing conservative movement by becoming a member today. And if you want to support this channel, you can also use the code REAL when becoming a member. Thank you and enjoy the video. As everyone knows, President Trump gave his State of the Union address a couple days ago, and in my opinion, it was a phenomenal address. He talked about basically every single issue you could think of, whether it was the economy, jobs, affordability, housing, healthcare, foreign policy, energy, basically name an issue, and he talked about it. It was a great speech. The optics were phenomenal, but really, the thing that everyone's talking about with the State of the Union really isn't what Trump said, but it's how Democrats responded. And I'm not even talking about the official response afterwards because nobody cares what Spanberger had to say. It was an awful speech, by the way. It lasted like 5 minutes compared to President Trump's record breaking State of the Union. It was awful. Nobody cares. But that's not what people are talking about. Really, it's what happened during the speech. And there's so many specific moments you could point to. But look at this headline right here from Politico. The State of the Union moment, the Republicans hope saves the midterms. Yeah, this is a real headline from Politico. And it sounds like Republicans, they were desperately waiting for Democrats to say or do something stupid, and they finally had that moment occur during the State of the Union. There were a couple other times during the speech where it's like, yeah, this is optically awful for Dems, but really, it was one moment during the State of the Union address when President Trump asked lawmakers to rise if they agreed with a fundamental principle. If you agree with the statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens, Trump said. Yeah, that's what he said. That's not controversial, by the way. You talk about an 80-20 issue, hell, 90-10 issue. This is the definition of a 90-10 issue. Like, yeah, of course, the first duty of people elected in Congress is to protect American citizens, put their interests first. And Democrats could have spun this a million different ways. They could have said, well, there are no illegal immigrants. So, yes, of course, we stand and support this. And this could have blew up in Trump's face, by the way. This could have blew up in his face. Of course, every Republican, they stood up, but Democrats, they couldn't help themselves. Instead of just standing and pretending to actually care about this issue, they stayed seated, which is just baffling. Why? Why would you stay seated on what is a layup for you? You could have just stood up and this would have blown up in Trump's face. This could have easily blown up in Trump's face, but nope. Democrats refuse to stand. There were a couple Democrats that did stand. There were a couple like halfway sane or people that realized, oh yeah, if we don't stand up for this issue, we're gonna get crushed. There were a couple that did stand up, but nobody cares about them. They care about the fact that 95 to 99% of Democrats, they disagree with that statement. It's just wild. They did not have to say anything about it. They did not have to spin anything. It's just common sense. Like, yeah, the first duty is to protect American citizens. That's all you have to agree with. Nothing else, nothing more. It's just, why? That visual is one Republicans are eager to spread across the airwaves and highlight on the campaign trail after weathering months of backlash to Trump's unpopular mass deportation campaigns. Which, yeah, this was a gift to the Republican Party. They were like banking on Democrats being like stupid and delusional. I don't think they thought every single Democrat, or at least 95% of them, they stayed seated. Like, they must have thought a couple of them would have stood up, a bit more, like half or something. But nope, they were given a free win. All Republicans have to do now is run this ad over and over and over again. And that's why I think Trump did that. He knew that Democrats could not help themselves. And he did this a bunch. He just said, hey, these people are nuts. And now all Republicans have to do is run that clip over and over and over again every single day. And not just that one part, There were other parts as well. They would not stand for some other basic stuff. It was crazy. But the point is, that's actually the point. Make Democrats look absolutely crazy, out of touch, delusional. Remind people that, hey, the Republican Party and even Trump, they're far from perfect. But they are a far better option than Democrats are. Democrats are just batshit crazy. But they're already admitting, yeah, we don't care. We don't agree with this statement, which is just common sense. This statement is a 90-10 issue, possibly 95-5. I don't see how anybody could disagree with that. Like, yeah, it doesn't matter how you vote, who you vote for. You have to agree that the job of the government, or at least the first job, the first duty, is to protect American citizens. But nope, Democrats couldn't do it. They could not stand up. Just stand up. They did not have to do anything else, did not have to vote on anything. All they had to do was stand up for like 5 seconds. The National Republican Congressional Committee held a meeting Wednesday morning on how best to deploy that specific moment in attack ads against vulnerable Democrat House members, according to one person familiar with the conversation. And I'm glad the GOP, they realize they have something here. You notice Democrats, they're trying to pretend that this never happened. Hell, some Democrats, they're just so crazy that they're actually calling Trump racist for saying it. So yeah, they're realizing, at least most of them realize, oh shit, we made a mistake. But some, they're just so out there that they actually think, yeah, people agree with what we said. No. The average person, even most Democrats, agree with what Trump said. At least one group is already making its move. The conservative nonprofit American Sovereignty will begin airing a 30-second ad Thursday that plays the moment in full, overlaid with text claiming Democrats are for illegal alien criminals. The ad, first shared of Politico, is part of the group's ongoing 7-figure TV blitz in critical battleground states like North Carolina, Michigan, and Georgia. Good. All you have to do is run this over and over again. Keep reminding people that this is why Republicans won in 2024, by the way. They did not like the GOP. They might have liked Trump, but the Republican Party, they won because everybody remembered and were reminded constantly and shown for the last couple of years, these people are crazy. Not just like in a, hypothetical sense. No, they're just crazy. They actually think we need open borders. We need no border security. And now they're admitting to the whole world, yeah, we don't care about American citizens. Yeah, no, we don't care. For most of the history of our country, Democrats and Republicans have disagreed in good faith on how to protect the citizens of this country, said David Schaefer, a GOP strategist who previously served as chair of the Georgia Republican Party. The Democrats made clear that protecting American citizens is no longer their primary objective. And yeah, how can Democrats spin this? At least if they would have pissed off their base, if they stood up, they could have spun it as, well, yeah, of course, we have to protect American citizens, but also care for illegal aliens or whatever. They could have said anything if they stood up. And a good chunk of their own base would have bought into it. But, like, they could have spun that. I don't know how you spin this one at all. I don't know how. Because it's clear they don't give a shit. And especially afterwards, we had some people running around and saying, Trump is a racist for suggesting such a horrific thing. Several GOP candidates in high-profile races and lawmakers quickly amplified the clip on social media and released statements slamming Democrats for staying in their seats. Now, this moment is potentially critical for Republicans who have found themselves underwater in both the economy and immigration, the two issues they used to own. Recent polling from Politico and Public First shows nearly half of Americans found immigration or Trump's immigration tactics to be too aggressive, and 46% of them think the Trump admin is responsible for high costs. And yes, that is a serious issue. But the problem is, for Democrats, is even in these same polls, Republicans are still winning on the economy and immigration, not by as much, but they're still winning these issues. And now you just gave Republicans a free win, a significant win, because now Republicans can be on the offensive and just repeat this over and over again and make Democrats respond. Is it the duty of the American government to protect citizens. That's all that they do. Make that the referendum for 2026. Should the American government care or put the interest and safety of Americans first? That's all Republicans have to do. And it seems like they're going to do it. And I think that's why Trump did it. He was banking on a moment like this. Hell, they were doing it earlier. They would not stand for half the things. Even though it's like, again, 90-10 issues. Everything they would not stand for. The voter ID, that's racist. Team USA, some did not stand up for. Just everything. There was basically nothing that they would stand up for. It was wild. And I do think at the end of the day, even if you take away this moment, which I think is going to blow up in the Democrats' face, I think this was a speech the Republican Party they desperately needed. They needed something like this. And let's be clear, I am not saying this speech will cause a 35-point shift overnight for Trump or whatever. I don't think it's going to do anything crazy like that. But the bare minimum, it did two things. Expose the world and remind people, yeah, the Democrat Party, they're delusional, they're crazy, whatever you want to call these people. They're just out of touch, blah, 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 whatever. But also remind Republicans that, hey, if you don't vote, you get these people in charge. It's one way to get Republican voters more enthusiastic and more likely to vote later this year. Again, not saying it's going to save everything. I'm not going to say this single speech changed everything overnight. It didn't. But I do think it does give Republicans just some kind of momentum. Just get some momentum building before we really get into the campaign cycle. And really, I do think even in the short term, again, I don't think it caused a 30-point shift. I do think even in the short term, it does help Republicans. As look at this poll for people that actually watch the speech. Will Trump's policies move the U.S. in the right or wrong direction? Now, I should be clear, with these type of speeches, they can be a bit misleading because people that watch the State of the Union, they tend to be more partisan, especially in recent years. And these partisans, they watch these speeches, they tend to be from the same party of the president. So if it's a Republican giving a speech, more likely Republicans are watching, and vice versa. If it's Democrats are more likely to watch. That's why these polls, they're kind of misleading. That's why you should ignore most of them. But there are some that are actually kind of informative. Like this one right here. Will Trump's policies move the United States in the right or wrong direction? This is from CNN. So already not a far right pollster, far from it. But also, it's people that watch the speech itself. Okay. So before the speech, they asked this group of people, do they believe Trump's policies are moving the US in the right or wrong direction? And before the speech, a majority did say right direction. It was 54% to 46%. But again, with it being more partisans and more people that support the president watching, yeah, that actually is a bit inflated. We get that. But it's what happened after the speech that's actually important. Because it went from 54% said right direction up to 64% right direction. So that means people before the speech that actually watched it, they actually changed their minds. They realized, oh, these are good policies. These policies will move the United States in the right direction. That's why this is important. Not the raw number itself. That's kind of meaningless. It's just how people moved before and after the speech. And clearly, they moved in favor of President Trump by a margin of 20 points. That is a huge swing. Again, these voters, a good chunk of them, yeah, they did vote for Trump, of course. But even during the speech, there were a lot of voters that were kind of hesitant. They're like, I might have voted for Trump in 24, but it's not been good. But after the speech, they must have been reminded that Democrats are crazy. They must have liked what Trump said. Whatever the case is, it swung towards Trump by a big margin. So I think at the end of the day, this was a speech Republicans desperately needed. It may not save the midterms, but at the bare minimum, it gives Republicans some kind of life heading into the 26 midterms. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, and of course, join the channel today. Godspeed to all of you.